about a 50-year mortgage? The problem is not the mortgage. The problem is the down payment. That doesn't help people because what it does is it just gives you 50 years. That gives you more chance of having bad stuff happen like divorce or sickness or something else that could occur, death, right? Plus, after 10 years, you go to sell the house, you only get about $38,000 worth of equity. If you have a shorter mortgage, a 30-year mortgage, you get more equity out of the whole thing. So it doesn't help you at all. It's just a bad move because it's not the mortgage. If you did the mortgage, you save about $200 a month for a 50-year mortgage. But the additional cost when it comes to the interest is almost, I wrote it all that figured out, $335,000 additional mortgage interest that you'd be paying on the thing. You're just holding it out longer. It's like, you buy a car, 6 years. Anytime anybody buys a car and you're paying interest on a car, it's a stupid idea to pay interest on a depreciating asset. You bought the car for $50,000, took you 6 years to pay it off. You're still paying for something that's now worth, what, $15,000? But in this particular case, again, it's not the monthly mortgage payment that crushes people. It is the down payment that stops them. That's one bad idea. The other bad, how about this one? $2,000 and like, oh, you don't like Trump. Well, I don't like some of his ideas. The other one is a $2,000 check to be coming to you in the mail because of the tariffs. Well, the tariffs have collected about $350 billion, they think, somewhere in there, that by the end of the year, right? So we put a tax as it comes in. The American people pay the tax. Part of that tariff is also eaten by the distributor of the product. But in most cases, we're slowly starting to see it come into the economy. So what he's basically doing is taxing as it comes off the port, collecting that, and then saying, oh, here's $2,000 for you. You get the check. You get the $2,000 check. You're like, well, look at all that. You might just be moving it from one pocket to the other. It's not exactly a big savings, but the president also knows that you put this thing out now, the U.S. Supreme Court is going to make the determination, I think this week, on whether or not the president of the United States, using an executive order saying we are in a state of emergency, I have to tariff. I think Roberts on this one is going to come down in favor of that's a congressional action, a congressional responsibility. You president can't just all of a sudden say, oh, we've got an emergency, so therefore I'm going to tax. In fact, it was during the hearings and during the back and forth between the justices, and I think it was one who was asked, Gorsuch said to, so if the president declares an emergency, then the president could tax or the president could tariff. Could that also be the case if the president, whoever it is, says, well, we're in a climate change emergency, so we need to start taxing and stuff? And I think the folks that were representing the White House were like, what was the question again?
A lot of people were saying, too, that the early indications are they might rule against his tariffs.
They will rule against it.
And because of that, he's trying to flash like, look, this is good for you.
Put the $2,000 out?
Yeah,
right. It reminds me, so in 1972, 71, 72, under the Social Security Act, they hadn't increased the checks that people were getting. Inflation, they hadn't increased anything in 4 or 5 years. And they wanted to do like a inflation. Now it's built in inflation, you get more money. So they hadn't been done. And then the 4 guys who were running for president, Wallace, I forget who, Humphrey, but the others too. And they said 20% increase on Social Security, 25% increase for Social Security checks, 20%. Well, Nixon gets it because it passes. And Nixon then is like, ugh, because what they did is they combined it with another bill, and they had the two together, and you couldn't split them. So Nixon hated that all of a sudden it'd be a 20% increase on Social Security. He didn't like that, but because they combined the two, that went through. He even made a comment, Nixon did while he was signing it into law, that he didn't think that's the way to do it. Just all of a sudden, bang, everybody gets 20% increase on Social Security. But the checks went out to everybody in 72 in October, and it was, you're receiving more money from the Federal Social Security Administration, blah, 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 blah. And it was signed by Richard Nixon. There you go. So look at that. Hey, let's buy everybody's loyalty. Here's $1,000 for you. Here's $10,000 for you. What's it going to cost for a vote? Whatever it is. Like right now, the Democrats are holding out for the additional extension of the Obamacare subsidies that were put into place during COVID. Right? Remember that? That was the Affordable Care Act They decided they were going to, they're going to make it much easier. They're going to be able to subsidize more people. Here's the question, if you're going to argue this with anybody in a nice way. You simply say, do you think it's fair that the taxpayers are giving tax credits to people that make $600,000? Should we subsidize people, because that's the amount, if you make $600,000, you get some tax credit in there, because that's what the Democrats are fighting for, because that's the extension of the Obamacare temporary additional funding from the federal government. When they eliminated anybody making 400% of poverty, they got rid of that because during COVID, let's just send money out to everybody. So if American people with an income of $600,000 would qualify for a government benefit, does that seem right?